This is Brittany calling in from North Carolina. Brittany, you are live on Talk Heathen. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good. It's a nice day today, and happy to get the show started. So how can we help?
Okay, so my topic is why I believe in Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, go for it. We'd love to hear it.
Cool. So as a child, I always did believe that there was something else out there, just didn't know who or what. So, and I would talk to this something, and I would usually be outdoors looking up to the sky, and this to me was my way of praying. So, and I was probably around the age of, I don't know, like anywhere from 6 to 8, probably around 6, 7 years old. And I would pray to this God that if you're real, like, show me a sign. Let me know somehow for certain.
Okay.
Like, I need to see something. So years and years went by. And it's really interesting and funny, like, how this prayer was answered. So when I was around 10 or 11, I'm going to go with 11. I think that's how old I was. I went on a family vacation to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Virginia. And it was the first time I'd ever been there. One of the nights that we were there, I was sleeping in the living room. There was a couch, pull-out bed, sofa or whatever, and my mom was there with me. So we were sleeping on the bed in the living room, and in the middle of the night, you know, I'll share a detail, and I've told others this, and I know that they probably think I was hallucinating, but I know in my heart that's not what it was. I had been sick, and I was running a low fever. I didn't feel too good, but in the middle of the night, I was awakened. So I sat straight up. There was no noise. I didn't have to use the restroom. I just sat up and was awake. And I looked to my left, and there was this bright, glowing angel. It had, and I say it because I didn't get a clear picture of the face or like, I couldn't see his or her face. I don't know if it was male or female. But I know that it was very big, very bright, white gown, white feather wings, huge wings, everything white, everything bright, and right there on the left of the bed. So I'm in awe, in shock, just, looking like, oh my God. So I turned to wake my mom up because I want her to see too. I want her to get this awesome sight. So I'm waking her up, and then I turn back, and of course it's gone. So in that moment though, that was the most incredible, I would say, peace and tranquility I have ever felt in my life. And, I've never forgotten that. And, it took me a while to kind of wonder, why did I see that? And then, thinking back, I have a really good memory. Thinking back, I was thinking, you know what? That was my sign. That was my answer from God to that prayer of me needing to see something. And I can't explain it. I can't tell you how that happened, but other than it was just God answering that prayer for me.
Okay.
And there's other reasons why I believe too, but that's the main one.
Okay. Well, Brittany, first of all, I want to appreciate you waiting on the line and telling us this story. So, we really like it when callers give us their first line of reason, right? Like, this is what you've described as your primary reason. You had this personal experience that was very meaningful to you.
Right.
And so that was your reason for believing. So I really do appreciate that. And I would say when I was a Christian, my personal experiences, what I would describe with the divine, using that language at the time, were also the biggest reasons why I believed. But somebody asked me a question one time, and I thought it was really interesting. And I want to hear your answer to this question too. So this question was, if somebody who came from another religious faith, let's say it was maybe a Muslim, or it doesn't have to be anything real, it could be a made-up scenario, a made-up faith, came to me and described to me the exact same experiences that I had, right? And in this case, we'll substitute it with your own. So the exact same experiences that you had, maybe they saw a glowing being, and maybe they also prayed to a god before, and that convinced them of their God belief. Would that convince you? In other words, they're describing their experience, they're describing it to you. Are you any more convinced that their God is real? Would that be convincing to you?
I would totally believe that people see things, and, you know, I can't tell you that it's coming from a different God or the same God. I do not know. You know,
Okay.
I don't know if they believe in Allah, whoever they believe, or who they pray to. You know, only they can answer that question. But I do believe in the supernatural world, and I do believe that there is one God out there.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, Jim, if you want to go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask a question myself.
Yeah.
Shouldn't if you saw an angel of God, shouldn't that be a biblically accurate angel of God?
What, biblically accurate? What do you mean by that?
Well, the Bible describes several creatures that one could call an angel, and almost none of them, as far as I'm aware, look like what you described.
You know, I've heard that before myself. I have personally not read any of those parts of the Bible, whereas I haven't read many parts of the Bible, but I have read some. None of them describe what I saw, though. I will say that, you know, I believe that God created the angel race, and I say, like, you know, we're the human race. Before he created the humans, I believe he created the angels. I believe
which angels? I mean, so yeah, and many Christians do believe that there are angels, but my problem is that most of their descriptions fit what are more modern artist interpretations of them, and not actually the angels that are often described in the Bible itself. We don't see angels depicted as burning wheels. We don't see angels depicted as human-animal hybrids. We don't see. We do see one. The Malachim are described as human, but they don't have wings. The seraphim are winged, but not humanoid. So, you know, if you're going to describe these things, shouldn't it be accurate to the lore in which you believe?
You know, I'm only describing accurately what I saw. I don't believe it says anywhere that I couldn't have seen what I saw. I don't think, but again, I have not read any of the Bible's descriptions of angels, you know, so I'd have to read that for myself and see what it says. But either way, it doesn't change what I saw, you know.
Well, so here's kind of my problem, and let me put with what you're saying, and that is that the most common description of aliens that we see, there was a wide variety of aliens up until the movie Close Encounters. And then everybody started seeing the exact same alien all over the place. So the big bug-eyed guys that are most commonly depicted as aliens today and are reported as being seen by people who've been in contact with them more closely resembles a very popular movie than previous images. And so once again, that kind of leads me to believe that what you saw was, in fact, something your mind was making up, and it was just going to what it had seen and before, and was not, in fact, real, because you were imagining, you're imagining something that's not in the Bible.
You know, also, I do believe that God takes into consideration my age, what would have frightened me, what would not have frightened me. God is in control of everything, the way I look at it. And I do believe he has control over what I saw. I believe he decided what it would look like to me. That was in God's decision making. So therefore, me being the age I was, I don't think God would have wanted me to see anything that would scare me. if it's from God, it's not going to be anything that's going to frighten me. So I believe he made sure that I saw what I saw the way I saw it and felt the way I felt when I saw it.
That, except that he's never done that for anybody else. So why you?
You know, that's a wonderful question. I believe he just answered my prayer. I can't wait till the rapture and I can ask him, you know, personally, of many questions, that being one of them. But deep down in my heart, I just believe it was an answer to my prayer, and it helps me solidify my faith today, and it's like rock solid.
Brittany, I want to ask an alternative line of questions here. I want to go back to the story that you told. So you were, when you experienced this, you said whoa, there goes my microphone. Sorry about that, folks. When you were there, you said your mother was with you, in the room with you there, and you said that she see what you were seeing in that moment as well?
No, I don't believe she did at all.
Okay.
She doesn't have any recollection of that.
Okay.
She remembers me waking her up, but she didn't see anything.
Okay. So, you know, like I truly, you know, as someone who did believe in God for a long time, I want to believe in God, you know, if it's true, right? I want to believe in as many true things as possible. So if I hear your story and I want to know whether your personal experience was, you know, evidence to your belief, if I hear that somebody else was there with you and they didn't see it, and then you also very candidly tell me that you were experiencing a low-grade fever at the time, you know, there's a lot of people that have personal experiences either with aliens, with God, with demonic beings. I mean, we can tell all kinds of stories about, you know, what we might experience. What do you think makes your story, if you were trying to convince me, and maybe this isn't your goal, right? Maybe this is just convincing to you, but do you think it would be convincing to anybody else who wouldn't have that personal experience?
You know, I think a lot of people, if not all of the people that I have shared this with, just chop it up to the part of, oh, well, she had a fever. She was probably hallucinating. Oh, well, she was a child. It could have been her imagination, or this or that or the third. And the reason I share the fever part, I share as many details about that night that I can remember. It's like giving it a full disclosure. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Consideration and decide if it's true or not. That's your decision. But I'll tell you that everything I shared about it is exactly as it happened. And my goal isn't to my goal is just to share my testimony with others and to share the gospel with others, so they can take it or leave it. You know, it's up to them. But
and Brittany, I want to emphasize, I think it's wonderful that you're telling us this and that you were candid about that detail, because for other people, that might have been a detail that they want to hide, right? That they say, oh, well, this was actually going on in the background. So I'm really glad that you're willing to share that with us. But, you know, coming from our perspective, right, Jim and I, you know, we don't have a God belief anymore. And of course, we hear a lot of stories from people. So we're very skeptical, right? So we're always going to find, you know, maybe there's potential problems with these kinds of stories. And I know I've had fevers. I know I've hallucinated things. And to me, that would seem like it's the most, you know, I don't want to diminish your experience as not being meaningful to you, but it's hard for me to come to the conclusion that it's supernatural in origins. If we have a natural origins for something that we can point to, then that tends to be the explanation I'm going to go for first, right? And I think for any situation that comes to me, that's going to be the one that I would go to.
All right, because people who have hallucinations say the same thing you do, right? They say they know it wasn't a hallucination. Until you convince them that they do have a mind that hallucinates. But, you know, they still firmly believe that what they're seeing is true because that's what their mind is telling them. So the fact that you say you know it was true also doesn't really move the needle towards believability very much. And then when you start looking at, you know, over the past, you know, 2,000 years, especially the last 1,000 years, and we start looking at explanations for various phenomena like disease and earthquakes and storms and tornadoes and all those things, we start coming, you know, naturalistic explanations for all these things. have proven true, and we have yet to find a single instance of a supernatural claim to be proven true. The best that we can see for any supernatural claim is we have something we can't explain, and that's not enough to convince anybody. So it's great that you had this experience and that you took it as something meaningful, but I'm still looking for some sort of evidence that will show me that what you experienced was true, wasn't a hallucination, and that the supernatural somehow or other actually exists. And you can look at the Bible and you say you haven't read it. I've read it twice. I would highly recommend you read it with a critical eye, and then go look at all of the evidence for the things that aren't in it, or that are in it that are just factually impossible or incorrect. For instance, the flood. The flood could not have happened. There's just too many problems with it. Moses and the Exodus didn't happen. As far as we can tell from all the archaeological evidence, it didn't happen the way the Bible says it happened. There are a number of these things within that book that just kind of go, huh. And then we start looking at, we'll leave the New Testament out of it for a moment. There's some issues there too. But when we look at all of these things, I would, like Dan asked you earlier, if somebody else had the same experience, but it looked like their version of a popular angel and didn't look like their mythos' angel or experience, then would you really expect anybody to believe that God or angel actually existed? And I think the answer has to be no. We wouldn't take that as evidence. But that's.
I hear what you're saying, and there unfortunately are a lot of things that we can't explain as Christians. I think it comes down to having faith, and I also know one thing for certain, and that is the fact that we all have an expiration date. We all are going to perish and die one day. And on that day, I know time takes time and only time will tell, but that is the truth. When we all die, we all will find out the truth of the matter, whether we were right or whether we were wrong in what we believe.
Let me ask you.
I stand firm where I stand.
Sure. I want to ask you, that word faith that you use, can you tell me, how do you define that word faith?
For me, faith is assurance of things unseen. It's something that I don't have to see it, but I believe it. It's a faith in my heart. It's like something my heart can see and know, but the eyes cannot.
Yeah, I'm glad you used that Hebrews 11 verse, assurance of things unseen, because that's exactly like what I would use to describe. Right. Actually, there's a video of me describing, what my version of faith was, and I'm practically not quite directly quoting it as you are, but yeah, I agree with you. Like when I was a Christian, like it was assurance of things unseen. So my question is, do you use that metric, having the assurance of things unseen? Do you use it for other things in your life? And if so, what kind of things do you use it for?
I would say no. The faith that what I use when I use faith, it pertains only to like the religion, the God subject. I mean, in Jesus, I have to have that. That is vital. That is necessary.
Here's my follow-up then. Here's my follow-up then, right? So why God exclusively? Why does God get special domain when it comes to trust or assurance and things unseen?
Because if it wasn't for God, I would not exist. If it wasn't for God, I would have nothing. I wouldn't be here. I don't think anybody would or anything would. We owe everything to God, in my opinion.
But if Brittany, if I said I need to borrow your car for something, and like you haven't talked to me before today, right? So like I'm assuming you'd be skeptical of that, right? And I said, well, you have to have assurance in me unseen. Like you wouldn't consider that reasonable, I assume, right? Like we don't typically give that trust out too easily. Yeah. So like there's a car but me. Yeah, but like there's a lot of God beliefs out there, right? Like I think you and I can both agree a belief in Jesus, a belief in Yahweh isn't the only one. So why put all of our eggs in one basket for this one belief when there could be other beliefs that we're missing out?
Because Christianity has something that no other religion has. I don't think any other deity or being has died, been buried, and resurrected and beat the power of death. Death could not hold Jesus.
Have you heard of dying and rising? I'm sorry. Have you heard of dying and rising gods?
I have not, except for Jesus. And the thing is,
there's multiple. He's not unique.
Is through him. He is the way.
Yeah, he's not unique. Right. He's not unique. That's the problem, Brittany.
To me,
that is actually not unique.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
It's not that I feel that way. It's just I've studied other religions. I've made a study of other religions, and they're not that. And there is nothing all that unusual in the Bible when it comes to who that God is and who Jesus is. There are a lot of candidates that you can make that for. Pardon?
I haven't studied other religions such as you have, and I don't think there's anything wrong with educating yourself, things like that. I feel like I have found the only truth that there is, and others disagree wholeheartedly, and that's okay.
But how can it be? How can it be the single source of truth if you have over 1,000 different denominations, all of who disagree with each other on fundamental points of your belief? How can it be true?
Well, denominations go back and forth over doctrines and things like that, and they have their own
dogma and things. Yes. So how can that be true if they don't agree on fundamentals?
Well, I guess Jesus will have to straighten that out one day. I believe every right will be made wrong. I believe a lot of people have.
Why not do it now?
Certain things. They, interpretation.
Right.
The Bible is misinterpreted quite often.
Well, here's the problem that you have when you say that the Bible. So let me interrupt real quick. When you say the Bible's been misinterpreted, here's the problem. This is one thing that I really wish Christians could give me. Tell me the absolute one way to interpret the Bible, because there isn't one. There is no methodology you can use to actually get everybody to agree on an interpretation of the Bible.
The best
now,
thing I can
every
say
other
to that is to ask God to impart knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Everybody says that. Every religion, right? And here's the problem with that. Every single preacher, a person who reads the Bible and interprets it and is a Christian, all do the same things. They read it, they pray. Some of them go and add exegesis and what's the other one I'm looking for? They all do the same things.
For others, we can only speak for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, Brittany,
if it's true, shouldn't it be true for everybody and not just one person?
Well, I think there's only one truth, and I think that people disagree. And I can't tell you why they all disagree, but I can tell you that one day we will find out what that truth is. I don't have all the answers. I'm not God. God's thinking is beyond and higher than my thinking. I'll tell you that.
We have to take some other callers now.
Right.
But, Brittany, I want to emphasize, we really do appreciate you calling in and sharing your testimony with us. And we appreciate that you discussed with us. We would love to talk to you again in the future. I think the takeaway that I would impart from this conversation is we want to talk about like how we can best believe in true things, right? The method for believing in things. And you cited your primary reason, and you did mention you had other reasons, but your biggest reason was this personal experience. And I would love to hear more on your thoughts on the reliability of personal experience and how we can impart that to others. Because I think for my case, right, Jim has some other objections he's brought up, but for me, the unreliability of personal testimony is the biggest barrier to entry for me, right? Unless I have my own testimony to share. And even then that can be, not great as far as what we can examine. It's going to be hard for me to be convinced, but maybe that wasn't what you wanted to do today. Maybe you just wanted to share your story. And if that's the case, I appreciate it either way. But thanks so much, Brittany, for calling in. I hope we can hear from you again. And that's a wrap with that call. But Jim, any final thoughts there?
Yeah, I think personal testimony, eyewitness testimony is some of the most unreliable testimony we have. There are a wide variety of things that go into that. But yeah, I mean, we have a hard enough time sometimes figuring out what is real and what isn't. And then we have a tendency to anthropomorphize everything and assume intent when there is none. You know, the mountain tried to kill me. Some of us are joking and aren't quite serious. And sometimes it's just the easiest explanation, although they're not the most technical explanation for what was going on. But yeah, eyewitness testimony, not going to do it for me without some corroborating evidence. Especially for the supernatural, which we have no good evidence for.
Yeah. So. You know, this call, I love callers like Brittany because they're so candid in their beliefs with us. And they just remind me a lot of myself when I was a Christian. If you notice, one of the things she said was, well, we're all going to figure out by the end, right? By the time that we die, we're going to have some truth with us. That's exactly the reasoning I used. And it's this idea that, well, we may be wrong about some things, but I have this bet going on. And this bet is if I keep with God, it's literally Pascal's wager, right? If my wager is, if I'm on the side of Christianity, then I'm going to be okay because there's going to be some sort of heaven I go to because I'm going to follow some sort of moral prerogative. You know, it's just really interesting to hear that. But it's also, I really like the fact that she said, yeah, this other person was there and I had a fever and they didn't see anything.
Right.
That's so candid. That is so candid.
And that's exactly what we need more of. So
yeah, no, I really did appreciate that. But yeah, personal testimony. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for Jim. If it was on YouTube and we could watch that, you know, then we could analyze it. But even then, that's not the best, right? So anyway,
no, not at all.